Jerome, thanks for joining us here on the Millionaire's Lawyer. How you doing today? I guess you're in, I'm not sure if it's sunny, but you're in Montreal right now?
I'm in Mont-Tremblant in my workshop, and today is thunderstorms today.
Thunderstorm,
And so,
stormy day. Well, maybe that will inform the conversation a little bit.
yeah, well, it started with beautiful sunrise, and then the weather changed really fast. But thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity and the new experience. It's exciting. I shaved for the event, which when I'm in Tremblant is very rare. We like to have our special Tremblant look. We're very outdoorsy
Yeah,
here, but
very outdoors, right? Yeah. Well, you look great, and we've been meaning to have this conversation for quite some time. So thanks for joining us here today. And you mentioned, so you're in the workshops. Tell us what type of work you're doing there these days.
so the workshop is also a studio. This is where I meet my Montreal clients. Unlike Ottawa and Toronto or Miami, they're a little bit unluckier. They have to drive a little longer to get to see me. So the entrance first is my desk, and then my studio where I capture images, and then I have my whole workshop where I print, where we paint, where we create artwork, and so it's a laboratory of discoveries, and connections. So it's one of my favorite space, I say, in everywhere.
I love it. I know the work as well. I'm obviously a big fan, and I've loved having collaborated already with you. For those that haven't seen the work, please do check it out. We'll get into how to find all that in a few minutes. But you talk about your favorite place and a laboratory. It's interesting because you've experimented a lot over the years, haven't you? And you have, by that experimentation, really discovered some things. What are some of your recent discoveries? What are some of the things that are coming up for you these days? What's motivating you to create new work?
The drive is always the connection. So I find that visual arts is photographing or capturing what is not seen. So it's a bit for most people it sounds like an oxymoron. Or can you photograph what's not seen? But that's really what's really interesting. So for many years I've been doing this, but I've never been able to communicate it in a way that uh, made sense. So a lot of people will meet me and say, "Oh, we love the experience," or you're not just a photographer, you're an artist," But I never really understood what it meant. And sometime about 6 months or a year ago, I came to a realization that um, one of the most beautiful things one can do is paying attention with love. And I realized that's what I used to do. So, uh, for example, you arrive to Tremblant and it's a beautiful place. You pay attention to that beauty. It is transformative in its own. If someone throw garbage there, you will be like, okay, this is beautiful. You're going to just pick it up. And that's how transformative paying attention is, especially when you do it with the intent of love. And I realized that what I was doing in my studio was not very different. When people came, I was really paying attention to them, really seeing them with the intent of love, with intent of care, with intent of what makes you extraordinary as a person. And that way of seeing my client, seeing you, seeing your family, was a transformative experience for my client. And that when I realized that, it allowed me to prepare them for session. Like instead of trying to create a makeover, get your hair done, get your makeup done, dress to the nines, I was like, all I need you to do is quit the internal dialogue and be present.
That's the
If
key,
you're
isn't it?
present,
It's
yeah,
to be the present because you very intentionally when you say with love, I mean it's coming from love, but the reality is being around you. It's evident. It's you're present. You're grounded. You're present. You're in the moment, and
hmm
you share sincerely, genuinely. And it comes from a
Yeah.
place of love, right? Now, is that something? So you said it was only 6 months or a year ago. I'm surprised to hear that. It would have struck me that it's something that you've been sort of doing throughout your life. Interesting. Can you talk
I,
about that?
yeah, I've been doing it throughout my life, but I was only able to communicate it now. So
Hmm.
what happened is that you do something. We are our worst enemy. Like most of I think all of perceived failure, and that's really important. I say perceived because um, I think the journey is as important as the results. Um, is the fact that we sabotage ourselves, and sabotaging ourselves is when we sabotage our inner voices. We were talking about this earlier, and what I mean is that we get trapped in the words because the words are never what they are, right? We get trapped in our thoughts. Again, this idea of presence, and we trapped to what we believe is right, or this is the way it's done. I mean, actually, this is a very famous thing in sales. I think it's Seth Godin who said that if you say that everybody does, like for example, you come to my studio and I tell you everybody buys this product, I have 80% chances to sell that product. This is the way we're wired. That's the safe thing to do. Since everybody does it, we will do it. And so that very behavior which we learn is a very behavior that prevents us from our greater potential.
It's so interesting, right? Because we learn something and it oftentimes pulls us back, as opposed to, I think what you're describing is, well, actually, maybe let's put it in your words. So, what do we need to do in order to realize our potential then?
So for me, it begins with faith. This inner belief that it will work.
And to trust that it will
Um,
work, right?
and I trust it will work. I think it's really important because the minute you have an idea which is different, uh, and you communicate it, you're not going to be welcomed. The idea is not welcomed, and usually you face fairly harsh criticism. If I tell you I don't believe in saving and I don't believe in retirement, just imagine the
Yeah,
response.
well, it's contrary to what, well, I'll say the mainstream media is teaching us, right? Or what we're learning in school, from day one of work, you're saving for retirement is what some people would say. Whereas I know with you, and we've discussed this as well, like you're not talking retirement. You're doing what you're passionate about. You have no intention of retiring. You enjoy exploring, like a true entrepreneur, frankly. You enjoy exploring, and are passionate about the things that you're exploring, right?
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but there's a lot of assumptions when we say we need to save for the future. When we believe there's something called security, you know, and in the name of the security, we make some of the greatest sacrifices in our lives, and are they worth it? So when we talk about money and providing, typically it's go 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 go. I need to provide for my wife. I need to provide for my children. Go 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 go. Right. If you take this in a different cultural context, let's say a hunting gathering society, go 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 was not losing sleep at night. It was just I'm going to go hunt. So now when you're depressed, we go out for walks. We go to nature. But here in a hunter gathering society, it's integrated. So you never feel the stress like we do in modern days, right? So the question is, how do you deal with pressures? How do you deal with, and while you do all of this, is it right? Is it right for you? What is your little voice saying? And say, okay, I had enough. I need a holiday. This holiday was not enough. I need more. Maybe I need a pill. you know, and it is it really fulfilling our desires? Is it really fulfilling us? is it allowing us to think in a way that actually would make more sense for our lives, you
How
know?
much time do
And
you
this is my
spend contemplate? Do you just live in that, or do you sit back and contemplate that?
so I don't read many books, and I don't watch many how to say YouTube people. I think to me it's really everything started for survival for me. You know, I was sent to boarding school when I was 11 years old. So I was in a room with 60 other kids separated by a curtain. And if you want the first one in the shower, you had a cold shower. And you know, at 11 years old, you were with 14 years old, and you're going to be the last because it's the law of the strongest. So from a very young age, everything that motivated me was survival. So I started photography when I was very young, but I never saw it as a mean to make a living, or I never even, because I was told that I needed to have an education. Being a lawyer or a doctor was what was the best, you know, a desk job basically. I come from parents who weren't educated. My father stopped schooling when he was 12, my mother 14. Uh, they went to the food industry because with no education, that's probably the easiest way to money. They got some success in there, you know. And so they really pushed education on me because that's something they didn't have. Um, and so survival is key, right? So everything I've done was, first of all, I lacked confidence in myself. I also, I'm a dyslexic, and for the longest time, I thought I was stupid. So, you know, people like me evolved since the 80s. And first we were disabled, then we became special, then we became exceptional. I think now I'm fabulous. So, you know, like, so these are like my personal journey, right? And through all of these struggles, and you start thinking, okay, so I'm different. I need to put a meal on my plate. I've traveled a lot already, you know, so I don't really have this national route, you know. And so when I picked up a camera professionally at the age of 19, I earned my first award. I think I was 20. Um, and I was working for a company, and I already had my images in the first page of a newspaper. But I never saw this was to a mean to an end, which was making money, paying my rent, and putting food on the table. While I was doing all of this, everybody was telling me that I should go back to university so I had an education and get a real job. Okay. So by 21, I had my own photography business in the Caribbean. And I gave it up, came to Canada, and did the university thing because that's
That's what you
what
were supposed to
matters,
do. That's right. Yes.
right? So even though those 4 years in the Caribbean were probably more formative than any other things I've done in my life, you know, Uh, I remember staying at 19. My parents had left the country. I was left alone. I had no money. I was sleeping under a house made of coconut leaves. Uh, I remember this very nice Swiss lady who had a hotel seeing me and feeling sorry for me and say, "Hey, here's a freezer. Here, I give you you can fry a chicken." And I'll drive. No, I will take a guagua, which is like this community little minivan where everybody's pay like $1, and you pack like 15 or 16 in it to go places. And I'll go there, get my chickens, kill them, bring them back, and sell, fried chicken at night. And I'll poison the whole city because there was no electricity. So sometimes the freezer will not work for days, and I had no clue. I was trying to survive literally. So when a photo company decided to hire me as a photographer, that's where I started to. But again, survival. So I came to Canada. I met my wife. My wife was the first one to recognize, oh, you have talent, Jerome, you should do this. But I was looking for a government job. You know,
Oh my goodness, is that right? Yeah, because that was the thing to do, right? Yeah, get educated, get a government job, right? And you recall back
we're talking
those.
about, yeah, we're talking about 2000 at the time, just when Nortel went, you know,
Mhm.
bankrupt.
Mhm.
And I just done computer science and math just to be making sure that I make money and provide for my family. But my universe was never satisfied. So after university, I did like in the same year 11 different jobs. And my wife was a school teacher then. And I remember my wife and our coworkers especially were like betting how long will Jerome last, you know, in any given job. And Nisha was looking at my photography and was saying, you know, Jerome, you're talented. Maybe, you know, that's what you should do. And I was like, and this is where you self-sabotage because you're like, that's not what I'm supposed to do. You know, like I'm not really good. I'm not really capable. I'm not, you know,
It's not the
uh,
traditional thing. It's, I'm supposed to get educated and get a government job, right? So yeah,
no,
it's
but
going out on a
there's so
limb.
much, security in getting okay. I've done my max amount of years in university. I get my degree. Here's my resume. I went to you know, headhunter office. Sorry, they call it HR. And I get my resume, and I'm dressing the right way, and you know,
Get a real job. I hear it. Yes.
and then if you fail, it's like, why you? I'm doing everything. Okay, maybe I should
I'm
get
doing
more
everything the way I'm
education.
supposed to be. Yeah, exactly. Get more
Yeah,
educated. It's so interesting that your wife recognizes as well. And I've had this conversation with many successful entrepreneurs uh, it's the things that you're doing younger, when you're younger and when you're passionate about them, that end up really becoming things that become all consuming, right? That you hone your craft. Because it became obviously this theme of maybe we should get back to this photography, right? Let's try this photography again as well. Your business has grown dramatically since, but what was the switch? When did that switch to photography occur, and how did that change things for you?
so 2002 is when I started my first company, photography company in Ottawa, and I was doing a lot of weddings then. And I think when people started paying me for my work, I started to gain some confidence in what I was doing. And then I started to think on what it is I was doing. You know, what am I? Am I documenting someone's life, or is there more to my craft? You know, so I started asking myself those questions, and I started transforming my business. And this is where I started to really differentiate myself from other artists. In the sense that at first I felt, okay, at a wedding, the most important part is not the bride and groom. That was my first eureka. The most important part is the father of the bride, and his brother who lives in a different country and are coming to this event and see each other for the first time in 10 years. That's a relationship I should really photograph.
Yeah, and you're good at capturing that, aren't you? Like the love that's between
Yeah.
them, right? I'm sure the moments between them that are shared.
Well, remember, I'm an immigrant. By the age of 24, I already like traveled half the world. So I understand what it is to miss your parents, miss your friends. And so I go to weddings and I start to see those relationship happening in the background. And I'm like, I can take picture of that couple before, after, like, but this is not about the couple. It's about everybody coming to that party. So I started to shift the way I photograph the weddings and put more focus on those relationships. You know, the little niece looking at the bride, looking at her, thinking, "Wow, I would love to be in a dress like this." Not that she wants to get married, but she's thinking, "Wow, this is a queen, this is a goddess," you know, and capturing this wonder, you know, because everything is magical through the eyes of that child. Uh, Brothers and sisters, uncles and grandparents coming, you know. The other thing I loved in weddings too, I realized that it was one of the last rites we have in North America, which is multi-generational, where young children and grandparents or great grandparents actually relate to each other. If you walk anywhere now, people don't, you know. We go to school with people in a certain age, and we work within a certain age. And arriving at a certain age, you disappear. You're not part of the society anymore. You become invisible, you know. And so that's another thing that I realized I really needed to photograph was intergenerational relationships as well.
And Jerome, knowing you, it's also I don't know how, as we said before, how do you describe the love? Like you capture these moments in between, or how did you say that initially? Is like photographing, which you can't see, right? Kind of as you described it, right? It's the love
Yeah.
within that relationship.
So whether you come to my studio with Botox and plastic surgery or not makes no difference to me. Um, whatever makes you happy, whatever, you know, I'm not here to empower you. This is such a misused term. I'm only here to reveal what's extraordinary about you. That's how I feel, right? And so that's my focus. And that's what interests me. So you'll never see me go to a war zone and take pictures of people shooting each other, or it's not something that in a human condition really interests me. I don't find that it's elevating to anyone. But being seen for what is extraordinary is such a rewarding experience. You've come to the studio, I think you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
You know, I can tell you what's the highest pleasure for me in my life. I have two daughters, and seeing those two daughters relate to each other in a loving manner is probably, yeah, there's nothing that can beat that, right? So
Amazing. That's amazing. And what you do there is you do the same thing when you're working with people, in your studio. And obviously it's resonating with those that have worked with you. And the business has grown. You've got Ottawa originally, but then Montreal and then Toronto. Was that the next?
and now Miami.
And now Miami. So yeah, so Toronto would
So
have
I started Ottawa. I studied Ottawa.
Mhm.
And then between 2009 and 2012, I opened an art gallery in Montreal, which after 3 years I sold because I was more of a coffee maker than I was an art dealer. So I kind of didn't enjoy that aspect. Then I opened Toronto. I found it easier to do business in Ontario because that's what I was used to. Then the pandemic came. So I had to close all my studios. Then I reopened Ottawa first. I reopened Toronto because we have lots of clients there. And then I wanted to go to Miami. And so I started that this year. And meanwhile, because during the pandemic, I sold my house in Ottawa and I moved to Mont-Tremblant. And we started to, get success here in Quebec, and so we started to advertise what I do here. And that's also building slowly.
It's just grown though, as you say, for by putting it at the right way and working with people and feeling that, and then those that have had the experience have spoken to others, right? I think you're probably the biggest. I'm sure the biggest way that people find you is via word of mouth, right? Having someone that has worked with you.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's fortunate at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Is unless you go through the experience, you don't really know. Yeah, I'm kind of lost amid like thousands of other artists, right? And so because like I said, the experience is probably as important as the image. So the image I captured for you is very meaningful, but someone not going through the experience or not having that sensitivity might not see what you see, right? A lot of them do, but I think they only realize when they're at the studio. Like yesterday, Sunday, I had a client, and they left me a Google review, and they said, if you're just going for a portrait, don't go to Jerome. Jerome is an experience. That's what he wrote, and that's really interesting because they signed up, they read they saw my imagery, they went to my website, they probably read some of my blog posts, but they really realize the difference when they had the experience.
Right, they had to actually go through the experience itself, right? So we should get to this as well, make sure that we're saying this for those that are interested in seeing some of your work and being able to follow you. What's the best way to connect with you?
The best way is probably through my website at jerome.art, which is .art. My phone is great. We love the phone. We're a small team. It's a family team. My wife works with me. My daughter works with me. My two best friends work with me, and I travel. So there's not 3 or 4 photographers for all the studios. We dedicate time. We dedicate at least 2 hours per client to 3, depending on what it demands. And so we are a boutique studio in that sense. And we're growing slowly, but we really dedicate to the experience, to create something that everybody who comes to the studio is a separate project. I don't have set poses, set lighting conditions. You're not coming after one another and doing the same thing. So yeah, don't
And there's
come to
that
try.
and there's that focused attention, as we say, right? Which is
Yeah.
obviously paramount, and it's growing as we talk about the multiple locations. Obviously, boutique, but at all these different locations. What's it been like growing? It's interesting. The growth of your business also mirrors some of the broader events that have occurred, right? You talked about the pandemic, how there was a start and stop through the pandemic, and then as you've become, well, I guess actually back to originally Caribbean, but expanded through Canada and back now into the United States at the time where we've got a Trump administration, right, which is also throwing fits and starts for us. What's it been like growing? What's it been like being entrepreneurial at times difficult times, but always driving forward, always driving the business forward?
So to me, the first thing I've learned is not to make excuses. As a business owner, it's really easy to find excuses of why things don't work. And then we basically self-sabotage into failure. So the first thing is like, I don't take excuses of, the economic, it's because of COVID that I'm not successful. It's because of like I, you know, everybody's struggling now because of Trump or the tariff or because of this or because of that. So the minute you embrace that language, you may as well close doors. I think also in every times of say challenges, there's an opportunity. So this is why I become the most I say prolific in ideas is because I'm like, where's the opportunity? You know, uh, I was talking to a friend about the insult that Trump started with, like back in January, I think, or February, when he said Canada should become the 31st, 51st. I said, it's too bad we responded to this with ego. We should say, oh, great idea to get our two nations to closer to each other. Why don't we just like, why don't you give residency or work permits to any Canadian who wants to come? If that's what you really want, let's see how Canadians, let's just get closer. It's like you don't get married before you get to know someone. So
That's great.
let's and I thought if our politician responded like this, we would be in a very different place. So I'm always looking for opportunity here. You see what I mean? So okay, here is an offer. Let's see what we can do of it.
There's your, that,
Like
that positive vantage point again, as you looked at things, or again, you being open and looking to explore the potential in any situation. What are some
yeah.
situations that you're exploring now that would be outside of your, your regular work domain? What you're doing some writing now, you're doing some exploration in other areas as well. Can you speak to those?
So there's a few things that I'm looking into. Um, I do have a farm I inherited from my parents in the Dominican Republic, and this is a love and hate relationship. Uh, I've invested a lot of money, and it hasn't panned out the way I wanted. But it's a fabulous opportunity to do something with it, whether it's to develop it, to sell it, or be in the food industry, which is interesting in itself. I also had an offer to invest in a boat yacht company in Dubai, and I always, if you know me, I love boats and I love the sea as well, and that's a world that I'm looking into, and so I'm in talks about that aspect. Um, I also I always I always refuse to teach or be kind of a yeah on a tour to teach other photographers or artists the craft. I just didn't think it was for me. But Nisha is changing my mind on that. She brought me some ideas, and so now I'm more open minded about that. And I think I started writing because of that
Oh, is that what
more.
because I know, sorry, the question was to lead you towards some of the writing you're doing as well. I didn't realize what had inspired
Yeah.
that. So yeah, let's talk. And I want to make sure people are able to find some of the writing. What's the best way to find the writings that you're doing now?
Um, on my website, on my blog, and on Medium. So on Medium is medium.com/ at Jerome Scullino, my first and last name. So that's very new. You'll see there's maybe a dozen of articles, that's it. But I've only started like a few months ago, so that's pretty cool. So one of the writing, I find that as you write, you it gives you a certain notoriety, you know, and it also enables you to really get your thoughts out there, you know, and it opens a dialogue. And so I was like, if I'm going to teach, and let's say if I'm going to have something valuable to say, writing will be the beginning of a proof to, you know, proving to that, you know. And so that's what. And then I realized I really enjoyed writing too. And I communicated with my creative writing teacher when I first came to the state. Her name is Susan Dage. She's a famous novelist in New York. And she, you know, we kind of rekindled this kind of friendship. And obviously, she's very motivated and very passionate about writing. So she kind of gave me that enthusiasm as well. And then there's Michael Sandler, who's a friend of mine. He's a famous YouTuber, and he's got he teaches a lot about energy and you know how energy is important in our lives. And he teaches this class about automatic writing, which is like getting up early in the morning and kind of between sleep and awakeness, where you can get in touch with your you know higher self and write uh, stream of consciousness. And so all of these exercises, and I was really brought up that aspect as well. And they kind of all come together, you know, like they're not like piecemeal of projects. I don't really believe you can be one thing and then another. Like I don't believe in a home life versus work and work versus holidays. We were talking about that. I think that life deserves to be lived fully and in the present. So I think that's what my focus is, and just follow my heart, follow my passion, and I have faith that it will work. You know.
Absolutely, that's such a great philosophy to have, and it's taking you to where you are now, to this moment now, as we get to enjoy this, experience this together. What what do things look like over the next couple of years? You know, living this philosophy and continuing as you do. You know, what do things look like if we're having this conversation in 2 years from now?
So there's a few things I've been thinking of a legacy. I mean, I capture a lot of imagery of families and you know immortalizing legacy. So I'm thinking of my own legacy. I have two daughters, and you met one of them. You know, you've been so much fun and to work with. You do such an incredible job, and I brought my daughter to talk about you know uh, building a business that she be part of and where she can also engage and you know build her dreams, build her energy. Um, I think I was telling you I'm so grateful for all the struggle as well as the successes. To me, the growth that I've seen in the past year through the pandemic is something invaluable that I would not trade in, and the realization that I'm not doing what I'm doing to get more bookings or more money. I think abundance comes, and when you have faith in abundance, I find that my main motivator now is to communicate what I do because I love what I do. And I think that the results in people's lives is important. So that's my reward. I don't know if I expressed that well, but
Absolutely. No, and it's that philosophy, right? Because it does matter. And
mm,
it's unfortunate more people don't think this way, right? Because I do the same thing as I'm speaking with entrepreneurs. It's oftentimes very limiting as they're trying to be secure, right? Trying to prevent disaster from occurring, as opposed to living and thriving. The most successful entrepreneurs are those that just leap. They trust. They take a leap forward. They know there'll be struggles to get there, but they continue moving forward, right? And it's such an important thing.
I
And it's not instinctual, as you kind of say. It's things that
no.
we've learned, and the most well-educated people are going to be in secure positions, but they're not going to be the entrepreneurs creating, right? And we need more entrepreneurs. We need people creating, and you're doing just that, right?
Yeah, I wrote an article again not long ago called "Don't Compete, Create," and I did this because I saw a lot of artists out there trying to, take some of my content. Uh, I heard some of my friends comparing their work to others, and I was like, don't worry about these things. Don't compete. Just create. Just create because nobody can compete with your creation, you know. And like you will attract what you put out of this world. So if you put fear out of this world, if you have this like fear of failure, like you're self-sabotaging, you're comparing yourself, you're really putting a ton of energy in the wrong place. And often, you record what you put out there, and this is not something, this is logic. It's not even something, you know, extraordinary. You know, if I plant corn, I will get corn. If I take care of it. If I stop thinking I should be planting corn, but he's planting that type of corn, and and you're not planting anything. So all you're getting is the energy you put out there. And so in everything I go into, I believe in, and there's no failure possible in my mind. It's not like I go to a meeting, like as a business owner. I don't know if that happened to you, but there's always this life-changing deal. There's something that if you get this client or this deal, will transform your business, you know. And if you go there thinking with a plan B, you're not ready for that life-changing, so I go in everything I do, like, when I started thinking, I'm going to go to Miami, I never I never thought it would not work, ever. I didn't do a plan B, a plan C, a plan Z. Just I went full on, you know.
Yeah, you created, you believed, you created, you trusted it would.
Yeah.
If you knew there would be struggles, there's struggles with everything, but you knew you would also work through them. You trusted you would work through them, and it continues. As I say, that's that progress that
I
we've been
mean, for,
talking
for me,
about.
there's a plan. It's like a budget, right? If you've got money, you budget it, then you know where you're going. If you just go somewhere with no budget, then yeah.
You still trust though that the money that's required is going to be there regardless. I mean, at the time it needs to be there, it's going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
because okay, that's a very deep question, and this is something that is I put myself in other people's seat, right? They look at me, and often I'm told, "Oh, you're lucky. You do something you love." It's a choice. You choose to you choose you choose your consequences, right? Um, there's always consequences, right? Everything we buy is based on consequences. If you don't take that insurance, you may get into trouble. And a lot of decisions we made is like we basically weigh the consequences of doing or not doing something. I learned a huge lesson from the Bible. You don't have to be Christian to see it, but about abundance. I read an article wrote by Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan friar from New Mexico, I think. And yeah, that was very, very powerful. In the Bible, there's a different miracle of multiplicity where Jesus comes and he's got an audience of 2,000, and the disciple comes and say, "We only have this piece of bread and a fish or two. We won't be able to feed everybody." And Jesus comes and multiplies everything. And there's always this sentence: everybody was fed, and there were more left. And he was explaining in this article that that's abundance. But unfortunately, we live in a world of, where we have a scarcity complex. And that's really interesting. What's a scarcity complex? Well, that's where we believe there's limited things. It's not infinite. And because it's not infinite and limited, and there's not enough for everybody, we have to start accumulating for ourselves. And it's not that we're bad people or good people. It just, we take it for granted. That's the way it is. So now you're alone. You accumulate a little bit, but not so much. You're not too worried. You're alone. But then you get married, and now, okay, I have a family. I need a house. I have to prepare for. So you start accumulating more. You're a good friend, but right now I need to accumulate for my family because it's not enough for you and I. Right? And so we'll have never enough because of this very thought that there's not enough for everybody. I really trained myself to live in abundance and trust that there's enough for you, for me, and there'll even be leftovers. And I think that's a very thought, but very thinking, which early in my life was intuitive, and that I can now, thanks to Richard Rohr and thanks to life lessons, communicate with you. And it's a journey, you can't just be living in abundance from all this learning we have to unlearn, all these habits we created. We have to create new habits. We have to create new ways of thinking, which in itself is a challenge. But I think just starting, just that path opens a lot of doors. So asking myself whether I live in a scarcity complex or whether I live in abundance, just the question itself has been transformative in my life.
That's so powerful, and it's so important to ask those questions. So many people, as you say, live in that place of scarcity where they certainly don't need to, and to even ask the question and make yourself aware of it, and then begin to believe that there is abundance, because it is an abundant society, and we do have, and there is enough for everybody, and if we believe it, it does so become. I've watched it happen myself countless times as well. So I absolutely agree with the philosophy, and I think you just shared that beautifully. Thank you for that. And I'd be remiss if I got a couple more questions before we wrap up here. And I'd be remiss for, we talk of the times, and it's been through the show here, there's been a current of, of the times, what's occurring with artificial intelligence and how it feeds into some of the things that we've just discussed here. Are you making use of AI? What are your thoughts for AI? And how is AI going to allow us to continue to experience abundance?
Okay. I used to code, so I understand the basis of what AI is. But I think I expressed this earlier to you. The thought, the word is limited. The word is never what is. So when you understand that everything we say, everything we express, if we leave it to the world, is a lie, because it's not what it is, and is open to interpretation, then we understand that AI, which is based on that, and solely that, is limited to that, is limited to that language. So I don't know, I'm going to try to express my thought better. Mathematics is a language, and you can have two different languages with two different assumptions. So Euclidean mathematics is based on the assumption that two power lines never meet. We cannot argue with that statement. We use Euclidean math every day, right? Non-Euclidean math is based on the assumption that two power lines meet. And we can't refute that fact either, because we use that mathematics for every day. If we want to fly to the moon, you know, so if we want to build buildings, we need Euclidean math. If you know, if you believe that the Earth is round, you need non-Euclidean math. You know, if you both, you know, walk straight in a parallel line from the same space, you both arrive at the North Pole, like, and meet. So how you know, and I think so. To come back to AI is basically based on assumptions and a language. And to say that that's the truth is not, I'm not ready for that, one. Two, I think because of both languages, they have for me, AI is a great productivity tool, you know. And so if we get trapped by the words and the concepts, then we know better than AI. And if we're capable of seeing what the tool is, and we really come to the realization that we are really a sum of assumptions, but we have a choice in those, and that's what differentiates us. I think AI doesn't scare us anymore.
It's interesting. There's a theme running through this conversation, right? The way we sort of began, right? You know, from a photograph, you know, you're capturing, you know, what can't be seen, right? We're describing in math or language models that they're limited, right? That there's more beyond those things that aren't captured by the language. Like, you know, when you say, you know, language is imperfect, right? It doesn't capture everything. We use words to try to capture the essence of our meaning, but we're limited by the words, right? We're limited by the words available to us, where there is so much more. And I think from this conversation, I think that's what we're identifying, right? You live your life in a way, you know that there's so much more, and you work within the constraints of the language and society, but you know there's more, and you trust that you're going to get to that next spot as well, which is so. So sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I was just saying it's just so empowering. But you know more. There's more to it, isn't there?
Not only that, but I'm thirsty for more.
Yes.
You know, I'm thirsty for more. Our mind is inquisitive, and the fact that there is death makes it so interesting, because we want to know what is not, why not, what does it mean? And meanwhile, if it's a journey, why can't we enjoy the journey? Why do we need to enjoy your pains, enjoy your depression, enjoy your joys, enjoy, you know, enjoy the pleasures, enjoy the pains? But like, why is there such an idea of I sacrifice the inner voice, I sacrifice the question, I sacrifice the experimenting, you know? So when a child learns how to walk, does he give up because he fell? No, I think he laughs and just gets up again, you know? There's no doubt in his mind that he will walk.
That's such a good way to be, right? And that's the way we're talking as we on this journey, right? You're approaching it from that same mindset, which is so powerful. And you say, sometimes along the way, people are taught, well, you got to walk this way. There's a certain way to walk. You see how people will hunch over or be in a certain position, where the reality is It doesn't have to be. We can unlearn some of those things and walk better, right? Jerome, really appreciate this. This has been great. I'm looking forward to having this chat. We talked about a number of things. Again, just to remind people, the best way to find your work and to connect with you if they wish. What's the best way for them to find you?
So my website's at jerome.art, Jerome.art. That's the best way to find me. Please go visit my website, comment on my Instagram, which is Jerome Art Photography. I'm on LinkedIn too, so go there. I really enjoy connecting with anyone. You don't have to come to the studio and be a client to converse with me. I love meeting people. I love new ideas, and yeah.
It's so true. Please do go visit, and please do say hello to Jerome. As we talk about, I mean, you get connected with people at certain times in certain ways. I've been so happy that I've connected with you. Love you very much. I appreciate the way that you put it out there, Jerome. And I think more people need to be doing it the way you are, right? So I'm glad we've been able to amplify it a little bit here through this conversation here today.
Mm.
And I like to end these shows. There's so many wonderful things that you've imparted here today. I like to end these shows with something that people listening, whether they're driving or drifting off to sleep, that they can take with them, right, through the rest of the day, through the rest of the night, and into the next, right? Something that that's worked for you through the years, perhaps something that somebody shared with you. It doesn't have to be one thing, but a philosophy, or I know we've spoken of many of them during this conversation, but somebody leaving this conversation with us here today. What would you say to them for them to take with them and perhaps pass on to somebody else?
There's no freedom with no discipline. That's a lesson I learned when I was at university in Canada. A good friend of mine, Lawrence Pichko, he used to be a concertist, a pianist, and I've always been a bit of a rebel and a bit of an anarchist. I never liked authority, and he called me out on it one day. He said, "Jerome, you have no discipline." And I said, and I took that word as something authoritative, like I look at the word discipline with a lot of negative connotation. But I don't think I would be where I am today if I had not given more thought to what he said when he told me, because there's no freedom with no discipline. And I realized unless you can discipline yourself, you cannot reach your goals, and you cannot reach a certain quality of life. If you don't cook regular meals for yourself or healthy meals, you can't be healthy. If you don't sleep regular hours, you can't have the energy to achieve your dreams. If you don't have, so when I started to really, really discipline myself, discipline my thoughts, be systematic about, things that we don't like to do, and swallow my frogs, I don't think I will be able to achieve what I do now, and have a strength of confidence that I have in myself. So yeah, there's no freedom with no discipline.
That's great stuff, and it feeds into, from this conversation, all the ability to thrive and to do all the things that we're passionate about, as we discussed throughout the show. As you say, you got to put in. There's the boots and suspenders, right? The work's got to be done as well, right? Because it doesn't happen without. And that's the other thing we talk about as entrepreneurs. Like, yeah, sure, certainly passionate, but let's not forget that there's also a lot of hard work, right? That comes with that as well. Jerome, thanks so much for today. Really appreciate you being on.
I want to thank you because the opportunity. I've actually never been part of a podcast like this, and this is a new experience, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have met you and your family. Thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful.
Great to have you. Thank you as well. I've really enjoyed the journey so far as we've lived it in purpose, right? In love. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you. And perhaps we'll revisit this conversation in a couple of years' time.
Oh, I love that. Let's see where we at.
Excellent. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye.